Buying a motherboard sounds simple until you discover there are 6 different sizes. Does a smaller board mean lower performance? Will a massive graphics card still fit? Can you use it with a normal case and power supply? In which size are you actually supposed to buy? Mini-ITX. Mini-ITX measures only 170 by 170 millimeters. It looks almost too small for a high-end gaming system, but the CPU socket, memory interface, and main PCIe connection work the same way they do on a larger board. You can install a flagship processor, fast DDR5 memory, and a top-tier graphics card without losing performance simply because the motherboard is small. The compromise is flexibility. Mini-ITX boards normally provide 2 memory slots, 1 full-length PCIe slot, and fewer internal headers. Many modern models still fit 2 M2 drives, Wi-Fi, and capable power delivery. But manufacturers often have to stack components, place connectors in awkward locations, or hide an SSD on the back. That density affects the entire building process. Reaching a fan header after installing the cooler can become annoying. Removing an M2 drive may require taking half the computer apart. Large coolers, radiators, and thick GPU power cables all compete for the same limited space. Mini-ITX also rarely saves money. The motherboard may cost more than an equivalent Micro-ATX model, while compact cases and SFX power supplies add another premium. Cooling is usually limited by the case rather than the board. A well-ventilated Mini-ITX system can run high-end hardware perfectly well. Put the same components inside a tiny sealed box, and temperatures, fan noise, and GPU clearance quickly become the real problem. Choose Mini-ITX when physical size is part of the goal: a living room PC, a portable workstation, a system for traveling, or the cleanest possible desk setup. It is not the format to choose simply because it looks cheaper. Micro-ATX. Micro-ATX is where most builders stop paying for features they were never going to use. Its standard maximum size is 244 by 244 millimeters, although some budget boards are slightly narrower. That leaves enough room for up to 4 expansion slot positions, usually 4 memory slots, several M2 connectors, and enough fan and USB headers for a normal gaming system. The main limitation is the lower half of the board. A typical Micro-ATX model gives the graphics card 1 full X16 slot, followed by 1 or 2 smaller expansion slots. Install a modern 3 or 4 slot GPU, and some of those lower slots may become physically blocked. That matters when you need a capture card, sound card, professional network adapter, or another PCIe device. Most gamers do not. Wi-Fi, audio, Ethernet, and several storage connections are already built into the motherboard, so the missing expansion often remains missing only on paper. Price is the major advantage. Micro-ATX boards are commonly cheaper than comparable ATX models while delivering the same gaming experience. That lets more of the budget go towards the GPU, CPU, or storage. The old idea that Micro-ATX automatically means a weak office board is outdated. Cheap examples certainly exist, but so do enthusiast models with strong VRMs, fast networking, and enough storage for a serious gaming or production machine. There is one aesthetic compromise. A smaller board inside a full ATX case leaves an empty area beneath it. Functionally, that changes nothing, although some builders dislike the unfinished look. If I had to recommend one motherboard size without knowing anything else about the build, Micro-ATX would usually be it. It fits compact cases, works inside most larger ones, and gives the average user almost everything ATX does. ATX. ATX is the traditional full-size desktop format, measuring 305 by 244 millimeters. The additional height creates room for up to 7 expansion slot positions, better connector spacing, more storage and layouts that are generally easier to work with. You are less likely to find a front panel header trapped beneath the graphics card, and troubleshooting becomes easier when every component is not packed into the same small area. ATX is particularly useful when you expect to add hardware later. Capture cards, professional audio hardware, additional networking, and storage controllers all require physical slots. Even when the chipset cannot operate every slot at full bandwidth simultaneously, having those positions gives you options. The format also dominates the mid-tower case market. That makes compatibility straightforward, cable routing predictable, and replacement parts easy to find. For a conventional desktop that will remain under the desk and receive several upgrades, ATX is still one of the safest choices. But ATX does not automatically mean premium. A cheap ATX board can have weaker power delivery and fewer useful features than a well-designed Micro-ATX model. Sometimes it is simply entry-level electronics spread across more empty PCB. And this is where the name creates another common misunderstanding. ATX motherboards, ATX power supplies, ATX 3.0, and ATX 3.1 are related standards, but they do not describe the same thing. On a motherboard, ATX mainly describes its physical layout. ATX 3.0 and 3.1 are power supply specifications covering electrical behavior and modern GPU power delivery. A Micro-ATX motherboard can use an ATX 3.1 power supply, and an ATX board can use a compact SFX unit if the case and cables support it. Choose ATX because you want more expansion and an easier building experience, not because you expect more FPS. E-ATX. E-ATX sounds like a clearly defined step above ATX. In consumer hardware, it is much messier than that. A full-width extended board is commonly associated with dimensions approaching 305 by 330 millimeters, but many gaming motherboards carrying the E-ATX label are only around 269 to 277 millimeters wide. Manufacturers frequently use the name for almost anything wider than standard ATX, so two E-ATX boards may have noticeably different dimensions. That makes the case specification more important than the logo. A case may advertise E-ATX support, but accept boards only up to a certain width. The motherboard may technically fit while covering cable routing holes, rubber grommets, or side-mounted fans. E-ATX is normally wider rather than taller, so it does not necessarily provide more rear expansion slots than ATX. The additional space is often used for larger VRM heatsinks, more M2 storage, extra controllers, onboard buttons, and cleaner spacing around enthusiast components. Those features can be useful in an overclocking build or a heavily equipped workstation. They do not inherently improve gaming performance. There is also a practical cost: a larger case, longer cable runs, and a much heavier completed system. Buy E-ATX because one particular board has features you genuinely need. Do not buy it because extra width looks more powerful. XL-ATX. XL-ATX goes beyond E-ATX, but it does not have one universally enforced size. One manufacturer may make the board wider, another may make it taller to support 8, 9, or even 10 case expansion positions. Some MSI XL-ATX boards, for example, measured approximately 345 by 264 millimeters, but the label alone never guarantees compatibility. The goal is normally maximum PCIe expansion. These boards appeared in multi-GPU systems, extreme overclocking platforms, and workstations filled with capture, networking, or storage cards. The market has largely moved on. Multi-GPU gaming is effectively gone. Many features that once required add-in cards are now integrated into the motherboard, and enormous graphics cards can block several slots by themselves. For a normal gaming PC, XL-ATX is less of an upgrade and more of a compatibility project. SSI-EEB. SSI-EEB is where we leave normal consumer motherboards and enter workstation and server territory. Its common dimensions are 305 by 330 millimeters. The wider SSI family also includes the smaller CEB and the larger, now rarely seen, MEB form factors. SSI-EEB exists for systems that need hardware most gaming PCs never use. Dual processor sockets on some platforms, many memory channels and DIMM slots, enterprise networking, remote management, storage controllers, and several electrically useful PCIe connections. The priorities are different. A workstation board may offer enormous expansion while providing basic onboard audio, no RGB, and little concern for appearance. It may require unusual CPU coolers, registered ECC memory, or additional power connectors. Can an EEB system play games? Of course. A graphics card does not stop working because the motherboard came from a workstation. But gaming is rarely a good reason to accept the platform cost and complicated compatibility requirements. This is the easiest category to choose. If your software or CPU platform specifically requires EEB, you probably already know why. Everyone else can safely ignore it. Compatibility rules that actually matter. A smaller motherboard will usually fit inside a larger compatible case. Most ATX cases provide mounting positions for ATX, Micro-ATX, and Mini-ITX boards. The unused standoff locations simply remain empty. The reverse does not work. An ATX board normally cannot fit inside a Micro-ATX case, and an E-ATX label does not guarantee support for every wide motherboard. Always compare the exact dimensions. This becomes essential with E-ATX, XL-ATX, and SSI-EEB, where the category name may not tell the whole story. Graphics card compatibility is mostly determined by the case. The main PCIe X16 connection is the same basic interface across these consumer form factors. Check GPU length, thickness, radiator conflicts, and the number of rear case slots. On Micro-ATX, also check whether a thick graphics card blocks lower connectors or expansion slots you intended to use. Power supply size is another case decision. The motherboard uses its required main and CPU power connectors, whether the PSU housing is ATX, SFX, or SFXL. What matters is whether the power supply fits inside the chassis and whether its cables are long enough. CPU cooler compatibility depends on the socket, component spacing, and case clearance, not simply whether the motherboard is ATX or Mini-ITX. And never assume that the form factor reveals the complete feature set. Two ATX boards can have different numbers of M2 slots. A Micro-ATX board may have stronger power delivery than a larger model. An expensive Mini-ITX board may offer better networking than a budget E-ATX board. Size creates room. The manufacturer decides how to use it. Which one should you buy? For the smallest possible system, choose Mini-ITX and accept the higher price and tighter assembly. For the strongest value in a typical gaming build, Micro-ATX is the practical sweet spot. For easier building, more expansion, and long-term flexibility, ATX remains the safest standard. Choose E-ATX only when a particular high-end board provides features you will actually use. Choose XL-ATX only after checking every measurement and confirming that you genuinely need its expansion layout. And choose EEB when you are building a workstation or server platform that specifically requires it. There are also niche formats such as Flex-ATX and Mini-DTX, but they are uncommon in modern consumer builds and behave like specialized variations of the smaller categories we have already covered. At the end of the day, motherboard size is not a performance tier. It is a space budget. The right choice is the smallest motherboard that still provides every slot, connector, and upgrade path you genuinely need. What motherboard size are you using, and why did you choose it? Let me know in the comments. If this video helped you choose the right motherboard size, drop a like and subscribe for more fast, clear hardware breakdowns.